hetepu bet Ankh Uja Seneb Yiti M Hotep. Greetings and peace. Well, family, I'm back again to continue the reading of the Kemetic approach to Rastafari. This dissertation written by a gentleman to the Temple University. Yeah. Okay, this is chapter 4, the process of remembering Osar within a Noonian cosmology, theorizing Osar. Okay, let's go. Each human's purpose on earth was to return to Nu. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. In chapter 3, we outline the Anu cosmology in detail and review its foundation as the template process of remembering. Beginning with the interdependence and interrelationship between the material and unseen realms, we discuss that the Nile provides the ancient Anu with the means to conceptualize the source from which the universe emerges and returns, the ongoing process of remembering. While Nu is source, it is Ra-Atum that is the specific cyclical path in which the unseen realm manifests as the material realm and simultaneously moves through 4 moments of creation: stability, decline, and remembering. One of the key forces emerging into the material realm from the unseen realm and adhering to these 4 moments is Osar. Osar, as we shall discuss, is the initial Neteru that manifests in the material realm out of Nu. It is Osar who exemplifies human possibilities to remember. Reviewing the Anu cosmology in chapter 3, we find that Osar comprises the compendium of the templative nature. The Anu nonetheless asserts that Osar is very much a templative nature. Certain writers suggest, in fact, that Osar is actually nature for the Anu. Osar emerges out of Nu and creates all that is to become the unseen and material realms. Other writers posit that nature creates existence in accordance with a schematic in which nature creates Osar as the first Neteru to comprise the unseen realm. Though Osar is not the personification of the supreme existence in this later interpretation, these writers conceptualize Osar as the nature that is the exemplar of the ultimate human experience and possibly in both the unseen and material realms. Our conversation about remembering Osar then proceeds from this later perspective. Writings within inform us that Osar is indeed exemplar for how we can identify the multi-level remembering process that occurs in both the unseen and material realms. Egyptologists and African-centered writers alike propose 2 major interpretations of Osar. The first stream of writers declares that Oset and Osar are in fact human beings, and the cosmology, especially concerning the thematic narrative, is written subsequent to their existence in the material realm. Oset and Osar, therefore, exist within human form prior to 40,000 BCE, before the Common Era. Evidence for these writers taking this perspective often surrounds the discovery of Osar and Oset's deceased kets in Abydos, or bodies in Abydos. The other stream of writers suggests that Osar in general and the cosmological narrative surrounding Osar's journey to remembering in particular is in fact cosmological. That is, Osar and the narrative surrounding Osar's life are the Kemetiu perspective on the structure and origin of the universe that the Kemetiu gauge over time, and that Osar and the themes surrounding Osar's journey are templative to human experiences. Yet we must be clear that the templative nature of Osar surrounding events explicative of Osar's process of remembering do not in any way bear on the validity and applicability of the timelessness of the themes as they relate to human purpose and destiny. We shall consider both interpretations relative to our overall argument. On the one hand, if we suggest that Osar and Oset, for example, at one time exists within the human material realm prior to 40,000 before the Common Era or 42,000 before the present, as the first group of writers suggests, what we are really proposing, if we adhere to chapter 3, is the human potential of persons to embody the templative force or Ba of Osar and Oset, even if the template is human generated. If we propose that ancient Osar and Oset are ancient human individuals who had human experiences in the material realm, their experiences are therefore the templative Bas that emerge within select human form across time and space. This perspective then adheres to the cyclical re-emergence of the Ba of Osar and Oset within human form in accordance with Ra'atun. Osar Oset are therefore the Ba of all Necheru can embody particular human beings in accordance with the cycles of time. On the other hand, we can also argue that Osar in particular, given the Anu's cosmological perspective, is in fact cosmological and is therefore a state of African human consciousness that forms African thinking, behaving and earthly experiences. Sheikh Anta Diop describes a particular cultural personality, that is, thought and behavior among Homo sapiens around 150,000 before the Common Era. In both his texts, Civilization or Barbarism and Cultural Unity of Black Africa, Diop explains that a particular reciprocal thinking and behaving emerges in relationship with what he refers to as the Southern Cradle environment, the primordial land space in which the first humans, as Grimaldi, emerged. Consisting of a life space where the land is arable, the water resources are in abundance, and the climate is warm, this primordial land space is a direct reflection of the Africana human consciousness that can exist as reciprocal relationship with nature. As contemporary African people are the descendants of Homo sapiens, the cultural personality, we can argue, is therefore the anterior and even present possible way of thinking and behaving for African people. This anterior cultural personality is the expression of Osar within the material realm as well. It is therefore from this perspective that we shall investigate the process of remembering Osar as a symbol and descriptor within the Kemetic cosmology. The purpose of this chapter then is to map out the movement of Osar in accordance with the cycles of time so that we can begin to identify the symbols necessary to explore pre-coronation, coronation, and post-coronation Rastafari writings. We shall therefore begin this chapter by first negotiating sex and gender for our conversation about Osar, and then proceed with a close reading of Osar within Kemetic texts. We conclude this chapter by locating Osar within our African experience in preparation for the next stage in our argument to authenticate Rastafari thinking about Haile Selassie I. The major questions this chapter addresses include: what is the role and significance of Osar within the structure and origin of the universe, and what is the relationship between Osar and other forces comprising existence and the cycle of time? Clearing intellectual space. Osar, sex, and gender. Clearing issues of sex and gender take precedence before proceeding with our analysis about Osar as exemplar of the process of human as the processes of human remembering. From a European-centered perspective, even within seemingly radical and progressive intellectual theories and philosophies, maleness and masculinity have come to symbolize the biological phallus and socialized norms of aggression, rationalism, conquest, and the like. In a sense, maleness is trapped within what the critics of sex and gender in the West consider patriarchal normalcy, the antithesis of the most optimal and balanced way of thinking and behaving. In other words, critics of maleness call not only for transformation of the power which maleness and masculinity holds within Western social, political, and familial spheres, critics also call for movement towards the valorization of non-aggressiveness, emotionality, and human interdependence, qualities indicative of what the West considers female and socialized norms of femininity. We, however, shall argue that though Osar seems biological male and symbolically masculine, it is necessary to redefine Osar from a Kemetic perspective for sake of not falling into not only the suboptimal qualities that the West places on biology and gender. We need to understand Osar outside of even the valorization of so-called female and feminine qualities. For both perspectives do not consider a relationship between gender, biology, and cosmology. Symbolism of Osar across the genealogy of Anunian time and space has always been what the West considers masculine and biologically male. Though Osar has many representative symbols within Medu Necha, or divine speech, or hieroglyphics, examination of Osar wearing the white atef or crown, with arms crossed and holding crook and flail, or what we call the hek and the inkaka, identifies the expression of seeming Western masculine qualities. Osar's facial structure is male, and the hook and flail signify leadership and justice accordingly. Moreover, as we will review below, in the cosmological narrative, Osar is the Nesut of Kemet, husband of Oset, brother of Set and Nephet, and father of Heru. Given these descriptions or descriptors, coupled with the visual symbolism of Osar, Egyptologists define Osar as gendered masculine and biologically male. We can conclude then that what the cosmology proposes is that if Osar is exemplar of the most optimal human functioning within the material realm and the process of remembering, then that which is exemplar and optimal process is that which is masculine and male. Our work begs to challenge this perspective by using a Noonian cosmology as a lens of analysis. Concerning the issue of Osar as masculine, we can turn to the source of existence to discuss the extent to which Osar embodies qualities that transcend Western definitions of masculinity. Nu, the source of existence from which all emerges, is undifferentiated. As water in this undifferentiated state contains nothing prior to nature creating the unseen and material realms. The most templative source is a state where neither gender, sex, nor any other differentiations and categorizations exist. In other words, both genders are non-existent or in the duat. If we argue then that Osar, according to the cosmological rendering, is the nature most emblematic of oneness within the material realm and within the duat, then we must question the Western gender categorization of Osar as masculine. We argue that that which the West perceives as masculine about Osar is in fact the non-gendered qualities that characterize the qualities of Nu. As we will discuss, Osar symbolizes thought and behavior that, on the one hand, is expressive of that which is unification in existence. Osar as king or Nasut lives and teaches Ma'at throughout the lands, which keeps peace, harmony, and non-dissent throughout Kemet. The symbols of white Atef crown, the crook and the flail, seem like masculine adornment from a Western perspective. But these symbols convey the human effort it takes to think and behave in accordance with Nu and Ma'at. The white Atef signifies the purity or lightness of mind, is key for leading a life in accordance with the qualities of Nu or Ma'at. And the crook and flail represent what it takes, cultivation and persistence accordingly, to think and behave as Ma'at. Osar's adornments are not masculine imagery, they are non-gendered. To further expand this point, in the unseen realm in particular, Osar traverses to the Duat, as we will discuss below, and becomes that which the Ab of the departed strives to become. For Osar in the Duat remembers itself as Nu, where Osar reigns forever. According to the cosmological narrative, thus, Osar, through our lens, is not masculine, but the expression of the qualities of Nu in the material realm. On the other hand, however, Osar embodying the male biological sex is cosmologically purposeful if we place Osar within our cosmological context. We have made our point that Nu is undifferentiated and no thing, while simultaneously all things that come into existence. Recognizing Nu's oppositional qualities and descriptors, we can reiterate that Nu is the template for all in creation to exist within oppositionality or the extreme of itself, while nature is the template for oppositionality to replicate itself as the unseen and material realms or the Necheru. Our point here is that Osar symbolism and descriptions express this foundational oppositionality. Osar as male is important here because the opposition of Osar's non-gendered qualities, those resembling the no things qualities of Nu, has to be qualities signifying male, the things extreme of no things in the material realm. That is to say, that which is biologically male in the human material form is the densest when we compare maleness to the density of that which we consider female in the human form. Therefore, Osar can be male because the male ket or body is the densest human form residing in a dense material realm, both of which are the oppositional extremes of the qualities and descriptions of Nu. The denseness of the material reality ensures that an example of how to reside in it must too be dense. We have discussed the potential for explaining the significance of Osar as male, while simultaneously renegotiating Osar as masculine. Further discussing about the role of Osar, especially in regards to our idea of remembering, is important for this dissertation. The remaining portion of our argument concerning Osar proceeds in further necessary steps. We shall begin with a discussion about remembering Osar according to the cosmology. Our second step of argument is to explain the meaning of Osar at the crossroads, the moment when Osar experiences the 10th stage of existence. Our final steps of argumentation is to query the extent to which Osar experiences remembering in duatic moments, and how then Osar is not only a Ba, who manifest in human form, but the primordial collective consciousness that defines and organizes African people through space and time. The process of remembering Osar. The primary perspective in which we can understand the idea of remembering Osar is to examine Osar through the movement of Ra'atun. Both the unseen and material realms, in all of their manifestations, only manifest in accordance to Ra'atun. As mentioned in the preceding chapter, all experiences occur according to Kepra, Ra, Tem, and the Duat. Of course, that's Kala, Tukala, Luvemba, and Musoni. Reviewing the compilation of writings on Osar, we find that Osar's journey through the unseen and material realms is in exacting precision of these cycles. It is also important to note that what happens to Osar in the cosmology has both exoteric and esoteric teachings, esoteric meanings. Reading the specific experiences of Osar in relationship to the four moments in the exoteric analysis, which provides insight for our esoteric symbolic argumentative approach. Borrowing from Ashby by esoteric, we are referring to an analysis that gleans the meanings of Osar's experiences as they impact on the human condition. Each stage therefore provides double meaning. The significance of Osar during each of the four moments is key for our work. We shall now turn to our first phase of discussion. Though we outlined the characteristic of Kepra, a minute recap is in order to clarify Osar's movement in accordance with Kepra. As Kepra rises out of Nu, it sets the process that all that is the unseen and material realms has to come into existence as itself. In a word, it brings forth curvilinearity. That is, all that manifests within the unseen and material realms manifests or comes into being and adheres necessarily to a curvilinear cycle, or experiences and utilizations prior to its return to that which emerges. Osar adheres to both Kepra qualities. Review of the Kemetic primary, secondary, and tertiary sources does not glean the specific Kepraic significance of Osar, for most of the writing indicate that nature brings Osar into existence after nature creates the elemental Necheru, Shu, which is air, Tefnut, which is moisture, Geb, which is earth, and Nut, which is sky. About this order in which Osar comes into existence is found within the Anu cosmology. It reads thusly: I made a place in my own heart by my own will, and created the multitudes of things which came into being of births. From out of the things which came into being of their births, Shu and Tefnut, Geb and Nut, give birth to Osar, Heru, Kenti, and Amati, Set, or Set, Nephet. While we concede that the process of creation is curvilinear, consideration of the significance of nature brings Osar into existence before other Necheru is important for understanding Osar's Kepraic movement. That is, that Osar's coming into being seemingly as the first Necheru does not signify that Osar is the most important Necher, after which subsequent less important Necheru come into existence. From this excerpt, Osar is the primary nature creates into divine, into existence after Ma'at, and the elemental forces of which Osar embodies. Resultingly, Osar's coming into being into the unseen and material realms is the protection of the possibility of dismembering from its source. Nu and the Necheru, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, and Nut, which embodies Osar. Simultaneously, Osar's coming into being is the projection of the possibility of remembering or returning to the source and precursors, while remaining in the material realm only in conjunction, however, with the Necheru that nature creates subsequent to Osar. Osar is therefore important only in relationship to the ability, to the totality, of the Necheru comprising existence. Osar's Kepraic movement, then, signifies the possibility that all which traverses into the material realm dismembers, yet remembers itself, while still residing in the material realm and in the duat or unseen realm. Osar signifying dismembering and remembering becomes clearer as we proceed with our analysis of Osar in relationship to Ra Atum. In chapter 3, we discussed that the Ra movement ensures that all that manifests does so according to Ma'at. The unseen and material realms adhere to interrelationship, interdependence, and reciprocity, directly vertical to Nu, the deepest level of the Duat, and Ra movement ensures. And Ra movement ensures that all that is in the unseen and material realms function in accordance with unification. We can best understand the qualities characterizing this moment when we examine the 42 laws of Ma'at, precepts that explain that the human ab or heart strives to adhere, while in the material realm, accordance to the dictates of varying situations, as the ab judges itself based upon these strivings upon entering the duat, in hopes to remember itself as Nu. The ability to function consciously according to these strivings while in the material realm characterizes the Ra moment. Second stage. The Ra stage, in which both the unseen and material realms adhere, exemplifies Osar's highest potential to be Nu within the material realm. Indeed, the cosmology indicates that Osar is Nesut, or king, of Kemet. In this capacity, Osar is the expression of the unifying and stabilizing qualities of Ra. Osar, as Nesut of Kemet, is the embodiment of interrelationship, interdependence, and reciprocity between the dynastic genealogy. Kemetians, the land, and unseen infrastructure. It is within this stage where Osar is the possibility of remembering as Nu within the material realm. We can now turn to an excerpt from the Kemetologist. We can now turn to an excerpt from what Kemetologists refer to as the Osarian resurrection. It reads that Osar began domesticating animals and growing food, the birth of agriculture. Ma'at became the law of the land, and Osar instructed the people of Kemet in the science of spirituality. Osar was loved and revered for his great contributions. We can glean several important points from the above, all of which suggest that Osar signifies interdependence, interrelationship, and reciprocity, the projection of remembering qualities, the material realm. Osar as Nasut is the representation of the possibility of remembering. First, it seems that according to the above excerpt, Osar as archetypical Osar as archetypal Nesut of the Nile Valley is the embodiment or personification of the qualities of Ra moment. Central to the administration of the Nile Valley, Osar as Nesut embodies the highest potential of the Nile Valley inhabitants. In fact, emerging as the first Neteru from the four elements, all that is in existence the land, proclaims that the Lord of all is manifest within existence. Mastering living in accordance with Ma'at, mastering spirituality while residing in the material realm, Osar understood both the mundane and the celestial. Akbar, Naim Akbar, continues, he was able to bring both worlds together. Therefore, he was of heaven and of earth. In regards to thinking and behaving in accordance with Ma'at, Osar practices the essence of spirituality in Kemet. That is, as Nasut, Osar transcends the seeming confines of the material realm and understands the interrelationship, interconnectedness, and reciprocity, not only between forces within the material realm, but across the unseen and material realms. It is this perception of Osar within the narrative that Osar is the aspiration for right living, of the Nasut or of Kemet, that succeeds Osar, beginning with Scorpion or Nama, Aha, and Menace. Second, as the personification of Ra in the material realm, Osar consciously inculcates interdependence, interrelationship, and reciprocity between humans and the land. Within Kemet, according to the cosmology, Osar is the source of these qualities, bringing the methods of agriculture to the Kemetiu according to the cosmology. Osar introduces the cultivation of land, which requires the Kemetiu nurture the land over time and receive the output of the nurturing of the land. It is interesting to note that among the Kemetiu, Osar symbolizes harvest or the process of rebirth because of his cosmological role. We can suggest, therefore, that a Maatian relationship between humans and the land exists because of Osar. Through these methods of agriculture, Kemetiu's sustenance exists in relationship to Ma'at, the very place and foundation upon which nature stands, according to the Anu cosmology, to create the unseen and material realms. Moreover, Osar reinforces the ideas of interdependence, interrelationship, and reciprocity to the spiritual, cultural, social, economic, and political infrastructure, not only to the Kemetiu but also to the world. We read from the cosmology that Osar visited Ethiopia and established more cities there. From Ethiopia, Osar passed through Arabia, bordering upon the Red Sea, to as far as India and the remotest inhabited coasts. From India, Osar traveled through the Hellespont into Europe and established cities there as well. Along with the minister Jehuti, he established standards of justice and righteousness for the whole world to follow. Whether in the confines of Kemetic culture or beyond its geographical borders, Osar introduces, according to varying Kemetic interpretations, the ways of Ma'at. Already the personification of Ma'at Osar ensures that human communities, in this case Ethiopia, Arabia, India, and places in between, create and maintain the infrastructure upon the same foundational principles, the standards of justice and righteousness, upon which nature creates and maintains the unseen and material realms. Symbolizing the effects of the inherent reciprocity of Ma'at during the Tem stage, Osar succumbs to his oppositional qualities. That is, while during the Ra stage, Osar functions in the capacity of bringing standards of justice and righteousness. During the Tem stage, Osar neglects that which is just and right. Resurrecting Osiris reads, Upon Osar's, upon Osar's return from touring the world and carrying the teachings of wisdom abroad, there was merriment and rejoicing throughout the land. However, after Osar's return, through his lack of vigilance, became intoxicated and slept with Set's wife, Nebhet. Nebhet, as a result of this union with Osar, begot Anpu. Here we read that Osar personifies the qualities of the Tem moment, because though Osar is the capacity to exist within the material realm and to teach others according to Ma'at, the process of differentiation or dismemberment too necessarily influences Osar. We can therefore decipher two major themes representative of the function of Osar within the Tem stage. On the one hand, Osar then personifies the necessary process of differentiation or dismemberment. Above, we read that Osar's transition from the personification of Ra to the personification of Tem occurs when Osar no longer practices interdependence and interrelationship. Becoming intoxicated, Osar participates in non-Ma'atic practices. He sleeps with his opposite or brother, Set's complement, Nebhet, who is the Necheru most expressive of the force of helping qualities. Osar, therefore, is the nature that creates differentiation or dismemberment within the universe for him, because the act of becoming intoxicated to the extent that he causes familial divisions between Oset, his complement, Set, his opposite, and Nebhet. As the cosmology continues, Set, who represents the personification of suboptimal forces, plots in jealousy and anger, the blinding passion that prevents forgiveness and understanding, to usurp the throne and conspire to kill Osar. On the other hand, an incestuous act, Osar's transition from conscious utilization of Ma'at to neglect of what is right and just, symbolizes the necessary differentiation within the material realm. Reviewing the Anu cosmology in chapter 3, Tem is necessary because it is the aspect of Ra'atun that ensures that that which manifests as the unseen and material realms return to Nu in the Duat. Osar's neglect to that which is just and right is therefore necessary because what is just or right, Ma'at always binds that which comprises the realms of existence. For one reciprocal response to Osar's act, is the creation of Anpu, the nature that carries the Ab or heart to the Duat. Osar is personification of dismemberment in this way because Osar ensures necessary division within the material realm, while Osar concurrently creates the possibility to return to the Duat. Osar also symbolizes that which, being in the material realm, dismembers while in the Tem stage of the material realm. Nature creates both realms of existence while standing on Ma'at, and all in existence therefore adheres to reciprocity. Because of Ma'at, Osar experiences further reciprocal responses because of his actions. About Osar's dismemberment, we read in its entirety. Set secretly got the measurements of Osar and constructed a coffin. Through trickery, Set was able to get Osar to try on the coffin for size. While Osar was resting in the coffin, Set and his assistants locked it and then dumped it into the Nile River. The coffin made its way to to the coast of Syria, where it became embedded in the earth. Osiris' wife, who is the personification of the life-giving mother force in creation and in all humans, went to Syria to search for Osar. Oset then told the king that Osar, her husband, was inside the pillar, and she returned with it to Kemet. Upon her return to Kemet, Oset went to the swamps, the papyrus swamps, where she lays over Osar's dead body and fanned him with her wings, infusing him with new life. One evening, as Set was hunting in the papyrus swamps, he came upon Oset and Osar. In a rage of passion, he dismembered the body of Osar into several pieces and scattered the pieces throughout the land. We read that dismembering of Osar is a reciprocal action, and it is a twofold process. First, Osar must experience dismemberment in response to Osar interfacing with Nebhet, and therefore creates the path to dismemberment in both the material realm and then the unseen duat. In fact, the act of interfacing with Nebhet indicates that Osar is no longer necessarily consciously thinking and behaving to the dictates of Ma'at. Obviously desensitized to and unin with the workings of Ma'at, Osar is unaware of the extent of Set's conniving, so much so that Osar allows himself to be dismembered. That is, Osar's conscious non-adherence to Ma'at allows Ma'at to reciprocally deal with Osar. If Osar dismembers or forgets the path of Ma'at, then Set dismembers Osar when Set first places Osar in the coffin and sets him sail on the Nile. The material manifestations of Nu, the Nile, which is the material manifestation of Nu. This transition is an act of dismemberment because Set not only facilitates Osar's removal from the material Kemetic land according to the cosmology. No longer than the suit of Kemet, the personification of unification is in the material realm. Osar is also no longer the personification and symbolism of the highest potential for Kemetians. Because of Set's response to Osar's initial actions, Osar no longer can provide the framework for or means to Kemetic sustenance. Our second point of Osar dismemberment extends upon our first assertion. In accordance with the workings of Ma'at, because Aset finds Osar and infuses him with the new life, the result of Set's reciprocal dismembering of Osar. To recap, the cosmology reads that one evening, as Set was hunting in the papyrus swamps, he came upon Oset and Osar. In a rage of passion, he dismembers the body of Osar into several pieces and scatters the pieces throughout the land. We can also include another reading for clarity on this phase of Osar's dismemberment. According to Ashby's reinterpretation of Diodorus Siculus, the ancient history of Osar and Oset, or of Diodorus Siculus's The Ancient History of Osar and Oset, the specific number in which Set dismembers Osar is given. It reads, Oset deposited Osar's coffin in a remote and unfrequented place. One night, however, when Set was hunting by the light of the moon, he came upon it by chance, and recognizing the body which was enclosed in it, he tore it into several pieces, 14 in all, and scattered them in different places all over the world. The 14 members were head, feet, bones, arms, heart, interior, tongues, eyes, fists, fingers, back, ears, loins, and body. Though Oset momentarily restores complementary, that is, Set and Osar reunite in the material realm, Set's cultivating and nurturing the unseen force of spirit of Osar, or spirit of Osar, while while his body remains in the material realm, ensures Set's response. Threatened by the reunification of Set and Osar, Set dismembers Osar into individual body parts because he mistakenly thinks that severing of the whole of Osar's cat, seemingly beyond grasp and recognition, will in fact sever the tenacity of Osar's non-gendered qualities that he personifies and symbolizes during Osar's previous stages of existence. In a sense, then, Set's dismembering of Osar into 14 pieces is Set's attempt to bring about the destruction of the ways in which Osar functions in accordance with Ma'at. This, of course, is impossible. Again, Osar's conscious contributions to the social, political, and ethical nature of both Kemet and the places in which Osar traverses sets the template for the most optimal human functioning. Therefore, what is important for Set is that Osar is the embodiment of the leadership in Kemet, one in which the world recognizes as the primary example of living on earth, the material realm, in complementary with the unseen realm. Dismembering of Osar is Set's desire to prioritize the function of the material realm instead of the interrelationship between the unseen realm and the material one. For it is the material realm, the lowest vibratory space, where the lowest and densest vibratory thoughts and behaviors have the potential to manifest. It is clear that dismemberment in this way also signals debilitation. Osar's body parts work collectively, at once being the vehicle through which Osar, as whole being, a collective, joining of the unseen and seen realms, administers on behalf of collective communities. Osar's collective cat, or body, therefore parallels the collective workings of administering and cultivating Ma'at in Kemet and through other portions of the material realm. The collective ket, or the collective body, that is, the parts of the body, or ket, surrounding the legs and the torso, what is referred above as body, function collectively, serving specific functions in tandem. Osar's head, feet, heart, interior or intestines, tongue or voice, eyes, fists, fingers, back, ears, and phallus serve as the material medium through which Osar can bring about Ma'at in the material realm. Dismembered into 14 pieces, the Ket can no longer function as a collective unit in tandem with the unseen, non-gendered qualities of Osar. While each individual body part still has a function and purpose in and of itself, Osar's Ket, by virtue of its dismemberment, cannot function as a collective Osarian Ket or Osarian body and non-gendered qualities. Dismembering in this way, therefore, renders Osar seemingly dysfunctional. Dismembering of Osar is purposeful reciprocity. Ma'at at work again ensures that where Osar's pieces are strewn, each piece inculcates the environment in which it lands. Each piece, though not necessarily comprising the whole, only parts of the whole, can have the potential of both the non-gendered and material qualities of Osar in unification of the pieces occur. Yet, dismembering Osar into individual body parts significantly defines the essential nature of the unseen realm. In fact, the relationship between Osar's body and Osar's qualities are clear. Turning to another point in the cosmology, prior to Set dismembering Osar, we find that the coffin made its way to the coast of Syria, where it became embedded in the earth, and from it grew a tree, which the most pleasant aroma in the form of a jed or tet. The jed column is symbolic of the upper energy centers or chakras, or what we call the Sefek Bara or the Shechem Sinra, that relate to the levels of consciousness of the spirit. Osiris Ket, or body, becoming Jed, is in fact signaling that at the essence of Osiris Ket, or Osiris body, is nothing more than condensed energy, spirit, or the unseen realm manifesting in the Ket. Osar represents all of the attainable levels of consciousness. That is, awareness of the relationship between the seen and unseen realms, dismembering of Osiris Ket in Set's attempt, dismembering of Osiris Ket is Set's attempt to separate the levels of consciousness that, when unified, signal the totality of Osiris' potential in the material realm. The unseen realm, that which Osiris signifies in the material realm, is at essence varying levels of consciousness. Okay, I'll stop here. I'll continue this chapter. This one is another pretty long chapter. Okay, I have like many other pages. Wow, a pretty long chapter. Chapter 2, I'll continue on my next live. Thanks so much for tuning in. Ank Uja Seneb, Duawu, Emaku, Duawu, Necheru, Amun Ra Pata. Thanks for joining me. See you next time. Blessed love.